Okay, we're live. So I am Kayla. I'm from Burlington Green, of course. You might remember me. Thanks everybody for joining. Hi, Kelly. Hey, Ryan. So basically, I know you're all waiting to hear from Ryan, but before we jump into things, I just wanted to thank some of the groups and organizations responsible for allowing today to happen. So, firstly, this is part of our Community Eco Network program, which Nouveau Network sponsors. So, I want to thank Nouveau Network, and I also want to thank Carolinian Canada and the World Wildlife Fund. And they have partnered to create the In the Zone program, which is also sponsored today's event. And of course, thank you to Ryan. He was super keen on participating in the live segment today. And I know he's really excited to talk to you guys and demonstrate his container planting and talk to us about native plants. So I'm going to invite Ryan in right now. Let's see. Hi, Ryan. Can you hear me?
Try now?
Can you hear me?
There, I hear you. I do. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right, that's okay. Good, good, good.
How are you doing?
Um, Hi there. Hi, everybody. Great to see you. Here's the balcony. Ready? You don't want to see my face. You want to see plants. Lovely day to be out on the
Oh,
balcony, of course.
looks so nice.
So there we are. That's all my containers. And so that everybody knows, this one here, okay, that one I planted about a week and a half ago. And this one here, same thing,
Wow.
planted recently, but all of the rest of these plants here, from here all the way across here, all of those plants were actually planted last year or the year before or the year before that. And they went through the winter. I didn't do anything to them over the winter. The containers were just like this as you see them, and they made it through. And some of them are even now blooming, which is really cool. So check this out. We got Prairie Smoke here,
Wow.
GM Triflorum, and over here somewhere, oh yeah, here's my little violet, my common blue violet. So check that out.
Thanks.
You can get flowers on your balcony in containers that last through the winter. Jeez, who would have thought?
That's awesome. So do you plant from like the two new ones? Do you plant them from seeds or do you plant like do you so do
Plants.
you,
I do a combination. So like those two containers, this one here and this one here,
yeah.
those were all plants in 4-inch pots
Oh,
that I did. But some of these are from seed, and I can show you also. I've got down here my little seedlings here.
yeah.
So these guys started as seeds that I put into the refrigerator in about February or so, because they need to go through a winter period called stratification, cold, moist stratification. Goodness, it's big words. Um, Basically, it's just simulating winter in your refrigerator, and then when you take them out of the refrigerator, the seeds think that it's springtime, and then you can plant them and they will grow. So I've got various different kinds of wild rye down there growing. I have some rudbeckia. I have um, some Asclepias, which is milkweed. And the thing is with perennials, most people don't grow perennials from seed. They grow annuals. So annuals grow really quickly from seed. Perennials grow a little bit at a time. So they're just little, 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 and they may not flower for 3 years or even longer if you start them from seed. So it's cost effective and you can get a lot of plants that way from seed. But
Mhm.
definitely if you want to get flowers, the way to go is start from plants in 4-inch pots or bigger. That's my recommendation.
Okay, I've never heard of the stratification process. Do you do that
Yeah.
with all your plants or just specific ones? Like that you're starting from
Um,
seed?
Yeah, so I do that with all of my native plant seeds. So there's two ways to do it. The easy way is just follow nature. So most plants will drop their seeds in the fall. And so you can just sprinkle seeds in your containers or in your garden beds in the fall, which I know is like a little bit weird because most people think of seeds as being a springtime thing. But for
Hmm.
native plants, if you do it in the fall, then they'll just do their winter cycle and then they'll come up in the spring. And actually, I can show you in a bunch of my containers, I've done that. And so I have little seedlings popping up here, and I didn't do anything. All I did was just sprinkle a couple of seeds into these containers. Here's a ton of them in this one.
Uh-huh.
See the little guys down there?
Yeah.
All sorts. And this one too, lots and lots of little seeds popping up. So that's
They're
that's the
so
easy way to do it.
they're so
um,
cute,
I,
the little ones.
I know, yeah, they're adorable. And I have no idea what they are, by the way. I do a combination of seeds, whatever is whatever drops seeds in my garden, plus whatever I get, swapped from friends, or if I get some seed packets from somewhere from a reputable source where I know that they're coming from locally and they're not invasive species and all of that.
Hmm.
I just take a mixture of all of those good seeds and I sprinkle them. So
That's so
when
fun.
we see what happens. But as for
So
the
yeah,
stratification,
yeah. Sorry,
that
Ryan.
yeah.
There's just a question from IYR42. What kind of
Oh yeah.
soil did you use?
Oh yeah. I will show you. So my containers have variable soil, but most of the time I'm using this stuff, which is just potting soil. It's just regular potting soil. So I mean, that's the one that I use there. It's Pro Mix,
Okay.
but it doesn't really matter. It's a combination of peat moss and perlite. So you can see here, these little white flecks are the perlite, which is just a mineral that helps increase drainage. So it's not really soil in the sense of like when you go into a forest or a meadow and you dig and there's soil that's made out of minerals and some ground up organic material. This is really it's just peat moss with some rocks stuck in there. And then what I do is I add a little bit of solid fertilizer. So that can be worm castings I use pretty frequently, or composted manure is the other thing you can use. And some people have a preference for sheep or cow or whatever. I
Mhm.
don't. It doesn't make a huge difference to me. But I mix in about a big handful or two for each of my containers, and I mix that into the top third of the soil. So that's it. It's pretty simple. And then in some cases, as you can see in this container here, and this one over here,
Mhm.
there's also gravel mixed in there. So I've actually mixed in some limestone or granite gravel, and it's the size of, they call it pea gravel because it's the size of peas. And that was sort of an experiment just to see if I could grow plants in rocks. And it turns out you totally can grow plants in rocks. There's not much soil in there at all, not much fertilizer either. And these plants, because they're so tough and they're adapted to living in these rocky conditions, like the prairie smoke over there, and the wild
Mhm.
strawberry and the Virginia mountain mint, they're just so tough that the soil is not really so much of a problem. So you can kind of do a rock garden situation and it works out real well.
So the limestone rocks, that's not that was just a test. That doesn't like it's
It
not a
it was just it was an experiment I did this year. I don't know if Jonas Eco Man has jumped into the chat yet. He's usually on Instagram at some point or other.
I
But
haven't
he
seen him
gave me
yet.
the idea. Do you know Jonas
Oh yeah.
Spring? Oh yeah.
No.
Okay, so Jonas gave me the idea and I thought, well, why not give it a try? We'll see what happens. And it worked. I have to say it worked. I would do it again. The one thing I would
Cool.
say is it does make the containers significantly heavier. It's harder to lift
Oh,
those
okay.
ones for sure. But in terms of plant survival, it works out really well. So if you like that aesthetic, if you like the look of a rock garden, go for it. Get yourself a big bag of gravel and plant in that.
So you're just like having fun and testing things out, and that's awesome.
Totally, totally. Every container is a new experiment. I mean, it's an experiment first of all, just to see will this plant grow in a container in cliff-like conditions? But it's also an experiment in, you know, which plants go well together with each other, and what kind of pollinators are going to visit, and how many flowers will I get at what time of year, and all sorts of experiments. There's lots of little trials that you can do in containers. It's pretty cool.
I remember, I think this was in the it was in the zone webinar. You said that you often have pollinators. You're on like the 6th floor, and bees are
That's
coming
right.
up
Yeah.
to visit.
Yes, yes. So that's right. I am on the 6th floor, and I do get bees of various different kinds. I get bumblebees, I get sweat bees, which are those little metallic ones. I get hoverflies. I get lots and lots. I do get honeybees too. I've had honeybees visit me up here, and typically that starts. If you can see out here, out off the side of my balcony, there are trees out there, and those are linden trees, and they flower starting in about June. And what's happening, I believe, is that the bees are visiting those flowers of the linden trees, and they get up to the top, and then they see my balcony, which is right about at the same level, and they go, "Oh, that looks fun!" And they hop on the balcony, and they do all their thing over there. I should
That's
mention,
so
by the way, thank you for mentioning the webinars, because we should let people know about those webinars, don't you think?
Yes, I only joined the first one, but it was awesome. It was so informative. I learned a lot, and
Yeah, for
oh,
sure. So this is part of what we're doing right now in the era of coronavirus. When usually I would be going out and doing activities with people and workshops and whatnot, and I've done that with Burlington Green actually. That's how I first met you guys. But now what we're doing is webinars, of course. And so what we're doing right now is a series called Gardening for Wildlife, Garden for Wildlife. And we've done 3 episodes so far. The third on Tuesday, and that was all about container gardens. That's the one that you would have seen, Kayla. And there's 3 more episodes to go. So if anyone listening right now or watching is interested, you can go to wwf.ca and scroll down to about halfway down that first page, and you'll see a little thing that says enroll in the Gardening for Wildlife webinars, and you can check those out.
I'll post the link also when I repost this.
Okay,
the live.
Great.
I'll make sure I post that link in there. And IYR42 has 2 other questions.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is there a minimum depth for the containers?
Yeah, so what I've experimented with this. This was another thing that I tried. So the first ones that I tried in were these guys here, and those are about 25-ish centimeters deep, and I found that works pretty well. I've also done these smaller containers, which are maybe, well, they're about the same depth, but they're quite a bit narrower. It's maybe only 15 centimeters across, whereas this guy's more like 20 or 25 centimeters across. And I find that in the smaller containers, it's harder to keep things alive over winter. So these guys did. My sweetgrass here and my Canada Wild Rye did survive over winter, so that's good. And in this container, it looks like I've got maybe some Canada Goldenrod and some self-seeded wild columbine that's coming up. So that's good. But I have definitely had more mortality over winter in smaller containers. So what I really recommend for people, especially if you're just starting off, is try these bigger containers in the size range of about 35 centimeters diameter and 35 centimeters depth. That has been the key for me, to keep lots and lots of plants alive. Like, look at this, people. Look at all these plants that came up in here. I didn't do anything. And I really attribute most of that to the size of the containers.
Okay, awesome. And how often do you water them?
Watering. Okay, yeah, good question. So actually in the springtime, so first of all, it's important to note that when it rains, I actually get water across here. So these containers here get rainwater. So what that means is I actually hardly ever have to water them at all. And I have these little bamboo rods here that I stick in there, and then when I pull them out, I can feel them, and I can feel like this one is very moist. So and then I always put it back in a different spot for next time. So I know that one is plenty moist. I don't have to do anything with it. And I have the same thing here. I have the same one in each of these containers. So I only water if I pull out the rod, the bamboo, and it's dry all the way down. Then I'll give it a really deep watering. But I typically only really have to do that in the summertime when it's a long stretch of warm, like sunny days where it's not raining. So if I have maybe a week in a row of sunny days like that, then I'll go in and I'll give a thorough watering, and then I'll leave it for another probably 3, 4, or 5 days before I have to water it again. And again, the larger containers are easier for watering. You can water them less frequently. The smaller containers, like this little guy here, where I'm growing a ginkgo tree, and self-seeded wild columbine popped up there. Those things have to be watered almost daily during the summer. Same with these guys, probably every other day for the smaller containers. So again, I'm telling you, you can do whatever you want with your containers. It's your balcony, it's your choice. But I'm just saying, you're saving yourself a whole lot of effort if you go for larger containers.
Okay. And that was 35 centimeters you recommended,
Yeah,
depth and diameter?
35 centimeters depth is pretty good. Yep.
Okay. And also, somebody says hi. Where Jean and Sheila say hi.
Hello. Well, hello there.
Powondale Farm.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
It was just they just wanted to say hello.
Oh, okay. Well, hello to you.
Kelly does have a question. She says, what is your experience for containers? Is there a benefit to clay versus plastic versus cloth?
Oh, yeah. Great question. So, oops. Well, I've just got the feed up here, but that's all right. Whatever. Oh, there, it went away. The difference to me, the main difference is that because I try to keep my containers over winter, what happens is the soil is going to be moist and it's going to expand as it freezes. So the biggest problem is with containers that are not flexible. So clay is not flexible, evidently. So it's likely to crack. And even these plastic containers, for me, most of the time they end up cracking, and that's no fun. You can see this one's got a major crack in it here. Maybe you can't see that. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a big crack right there. So that's a problem. And for that reason, I have switched over to these flexible rubber ones like this, or these fabric containers that are actually made out of recycled plastic water bottles. How cool is that? And that works super, super well for me.
That's so cool. Okay. Shavana Yoga wants to know, what kind of soil do I need to grow container lavender?
Lavender. Yeah. You could totally do lavender. So I have a plant over here. This is a native plant called Virginia Mountain Mint. And this is quite similar to lavender. It actually, it smells so good. I love it. It smells like, kind of like if you crossed lavender with like peppermint. Halfway in between those two. So good. I love it. I love it. And its conditions are kind of similar. So what I would say is, again, larger container. It may have just been that your container was too small, and so it was drying out too frequently, which is not great. And also, I'm not sure if your plant died over winter or if it died during the growing season. But in general, I would just say try for a larger container, and then the potting soil really shouldn't matter too much. You should be able to go for, because lavender also can grow in pretty tough. I've actually seen it. I've seen lavender farms in southern France, and it grows in like sandy soil that hasn't got a whole lot going on. So you should be able to get away with any kind of. Do go for a larger container is my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I have. Do you want a few more questions?
More questions? Yeah, take more questions for sure.
Okay, I have some that. Are there any native species that typically don't do well in containers that you would say stay away from?
Oh yeah. Oh, this is a good question. I love this question. By the way, I see my colleague Anthony here in the chat. Hello, Anthony. Um, yeah, so when I first started doing native plant container gardens 5 years ago, I just wanted to grow everything. And so I basically just, whatever plant I thought was cool, I tried it in a container. And sometimes it didn't work out so well. And I learned there was a pattern. So the pattern is um, woodland plants, so plants that grow in a dense forest with lots of trees and really nice moist soil that would typically have lots of bacteria and fungi and all kinds of cool biodiverse things going on in the soil. That's really hard to replicate, and it turns out those plants don't do so well in containers. So things like wild ginger, Canada, or rather sharp-lobed anemone, um, what else? Bloodroot, May apple, things like that. They grow in dense forests. I would avoid those for containers. I just think I think they want to be with their tree friends is really what's going on there. And then the other ones that I would avoid are prairie plants, like big blue stem, and Indian grass, and some of the other plants that are typical of prairies. And the reason for that is their roots actually go meters and meters deep, like 3-4 meters down
Wow.
into the soil, which is really, really impressive. They're doing that so that they can reach water. But if they try to do that in one of my containers, they're going to get to the bottom really fast, and then they're going to be sad because there's nowhere else to go. So
Mm-hmm.
I would, for that reason, avoid woodland plants and prairie plants. But that leaves lots and lots of more options for you to try. So I would go for, yeah, anything
Awesome.
else. Meadow plants are totally fine. Plants that grow in cliffs or mountainous areas or shorelines or yeah, and even there are such things as shallow forests too. And I found a bunch of plants that grow in shallow forest type things like woodland. This is actually my sort of semi woodland container. And I've got Woodland Strawberry here, which grows in shallow soils. I've got um, this one is Zigzag Goldenrod. I have here Plantain Leaf Sedge. Look at these cool flowers. Isn't this weird? It's like a wonky. Look at that. Isn't that bizarre? Those are the male flowers there. And the female flowers down here in the axils, these little white feathery things. So, and all of these are doing really, really well in shallow soils, even though they do grow in forests. So you just have to be mindful of, is their habitat in the wilds, does it have special soil conditions? And if so, I would caution. I would caution.
So,
Otherwise, you're good to go.
okay. You essentially just want to try to mimic their natural habitat in a
Yeah.
container.
That's basically what you're trying to do. Yeah, you're trying to mimic the natural habitat,
Okay.
if at all
And
possible. So, yeah.
also, Kelly has another question, but I think I can answer it because I remember what you said yesterday. Your
Yeah.
favorite native plants,
Oh, yeah.
wild columbine?
Yeah, that's right. This guy right here, Wild Columbine. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. And unfortunately, it's not blooming yet, but they will start blooming in 3 or 4 weeks. And the flowers are just so adorable. They're red and yellow, these sort of crown-shaped things, and they sort of dangle. They dangle here. I'll give you dangling fingers. They're kind of like that. And yeah, they're really adorable. But the plants are incredibly tough, and they self-seed, and I can't get enough of them. I planted 1 or 2 plants in my first year 5 years ago, and since then they just self-seed all over the place. Every year they come up in different containers, and I just find that really amazing.
And they are pollinator friendly, correct?
Yeah, bees do like to visit them. They'll hang up upside down and get their faces all buried in the pollen. And smaller bees, or smaller pollinators, including some of the sweat bees and the hoverflies, will crawl right up inside of the crown and drink the nectar out of the lobes, which is interesting to watch. Yeah.
That's so cool.
For
I
sure.
okay, another question. This was an offline question, but I know some
Yeah.
greenhouses and nurseries do not advertise that they are native plants. So what is the
Yeah.
best way to identify native plants, especially for beginners?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and you're right. It's not always well advertised at the nursery. So the best way is to just to learn your native plants by going on nature walks and stuff. I recommend there's an app called iNaturalist that is really great for helping to learn your local flora, and it actually does animals and insects and everything too. So you take pictures of things, you post them, and there's a really crazy smart computer that basically figures out what the plant is for you. And if it can't figure it out, then it's like a social media thing where a bunch of other expert nerds like me will come on and go, I think that's a sharp-lobed hepatica. No, I think it's a round-lobed hepatica. And people will have a little debate about it, and then they'll figure it out. And in that way, you can start learning about the plants that are growing nearby. Once you know the name of it, you'll be able to figure out if that's a native plant or an introduced plant, or is it an exotic invasive species, or what is it exactly? I have some vehicles going by and a lawnmower, just FYI in the background. Apologies if that's coming through.
That's
Um,
okay. Thanks.
but and then field guides too is the other thing. So I can maybe if we go inside, I can show you some of my field guides, my favorite books for identifying plants. Um,
Sure.
but I do recommend that you should learn about the plants that grow nearby, for
Okay.
sure. That's the best way to do it.
Okay. Awesome. And also, if anybody joining or watching the replay after, if you're not following Ryan on Instagram, go do it now. It's botanical_Ryan. And he posts a lot of informative content that I've already learned a lot. I've only been following you for about a month. So, yeah, make sure you follow Ryan and he'll keep you updated.
Thanks very much for that plug. Yes, I would love to have you over on my Instagram. Come join the conversation. Learn about plants. Indeed, indeed.
Okay, so let's see. Question. Oh, I know we're talking about native plants, but do you know much about invasive species?
Yeah, I can talk about invasives, sure.
I also had a question from Facebook. Somebody was inquiring about winter creeper.
Okay. Winter
So
creeper. Hmm.
it's like an ivy.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, Basically, like if somebody, you want me to say its Latin name? I don't.
Yeah, if you have it, actually, I would, if you can pronounce it.
Can I flip this so that I can hear?
Yeah, maybe. Well,
Oh,
Euonymus fortunii. Yeah, okay. Okay, yep. I'm aware of it. Yeah, good one. Nice technology there.
so if somebody sees that ivy or
Yeah, winter creeper.
should they pull it?
So, um, probably. If it's an invasive species and you have identified it and you're sure that that's what it is, you do want to get rid of it because it's going to spread. It's going to spread all over the place, and it's going to take over some areas where you would probably like to plant some other kinds of things. So, where I would point you towards is if you're in Ontario, which I guess most people watching this are, the Ontario Invasive Plant Council, so that's the OIPC. They unfortunately don't really exist anymore, but when they did exist, they produced a whole bunch of best management practices for removing lots of different kinds of invasive plants. And it's a wealth of knowledge, and it really takes you through step by step in an extremely thorough manner what the best ways are, and how you can do it without damaging too much of the surrounding habitat. So that's where I would send you. Euonymus fortune. Yeah, that's right. That's what I did. I do speak Latin. Sometimes Latin makes more sense to me than English.
Actually, that's one of the most impressive things I find is that as soon as you see, the plant is barely has budded and you can already tell what it is and you know the Latin name right like that. Like, I wish I could
Well,
do that.
it's a practice makes perfect kind of thing. You got to do it over and over again. And actually, I would say that growing plants in containers has really helped me learn more because I can see the plant every day and I can see how it changes throughout the year. So then when I go out into the wild, um, I'm better at recognizing things now because I say you got to grow it to know it. Because
I like that.
when you're just outside, you're only going to see you're going to see a little snapshot of what it looks like. But like this back to this Virginia mountain mint here. Do you want the scientific name for that one? It's a good one. It's called Pycnanthemum virginianum. And I would usually in the field, I would be able to identify this once it gets to be a tall plant like this, and it's got very distinctive flowers on it. But because I know what it looks like when it's small, and I know what it smells like too, because it grows on my balcony, I'm way better at identifying it in the wild now. Same goes for like this blue vervain. I would never know that this was blue vervain because it doesn't look anything like blue vervain right now, but I know that it is because I planted it there. So it can't be anything else. Same with over here, this little guy down here, this tiny little thing. Actually, somebody from Instagram. Oh, we got the motorcycles are out. Somebody from Instagram helped me out with that one. I posted a picture of it, and somebody reminded me that, oh, that looks a lot like a blazing star, Liatris. And I went back into my photos from last year, and I saw that I had planted a cylindrical blazing star there, Liatris cylindracea. So there you go. That's what it turned out to be.
Wow.
But otherwise, the other thing I really like, though, are the little mysteries where, like this thing. What the heck is this thing? I have no idea what this is. I obviously planted it last year, but I cannot figure out. I can't remember what it was. So I'm just going to let it grow, and we'll see what the leaves look like. And if I still can't figure it out, we'll wait until it flowers. And then once it flowers, that's when you can really start figuring it out, for sure. Narrowing things down.
Very
That's
cool.
the idea, anyway. Yeah.
All right. I'm
You got any other questions in there?
Not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like it.
I want to say I've got a story about Canada goldenrod. If you want a nice story.
Okay. Can you save your story? Black Lab Canoe just said, "Isn't that an old coneflower?"
Oh, he thinks it's a coneflower. Okay, Anthony. Well, it could be. It could be. It's possible. Obviously, this is the stem from last year, and now it's growing from these side shoots. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that one, Anthony. We'll see. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, you can.
No. Okay, so the story is 2 years ago, one of my containers, and it was one of the smaller ones, one of like these guys here, had a little seedling coming up in it, and the seedlings showed for the first time in July, and I had no idea what it was. It was definitely not something that I had planted, and I just let it go, and I was like, well, we'll figure out what this thing is. Oh yeah, I've been waiting for a good goldenrod start. Well, here it is. So it grows and grows and grows, and sure enough, eventually it actually starts looking like this. So that's why I think these things are goldenrods. Yeah, probably. So by August, I was able to guess that I thought it was a goldenrod. By September, it had grown to about this tall.
Wow.
And it had a big, showy yellow flower, and it was covered in pollinators. By the way, goldenrod does not cause allergies. Everybody thinks that it does, but it is not the cause of your allergies. That's actually ragweed, which grows at the same time as goldenrod, but it's not so showy. So people are maligning the poor goldenrod, which is a lovely native plant, super important to pollinators. Anyways, so that goldenrod, over the course of just July, August, September. It completed its entire life cycle. It grew enormous. It produced thousands of seeds probably, and it was a little bit terrifying to me how quickly it was able to do that. So I ended up pulling it, and I took photos of it, and I pressed it, and I put it in I pressed it in a plant press, and I've now got it stored inside somewhere as a reminder of what can happen. What amazing things could happen in your container sometimes without you even trying, really. This is pretty fun. That's my goldenrod story.
That's awesome. I think you made Kale happy.
Good, good, good. So what else have we got here? I can show you about, so these are my little forestry containers. So you can see these are deep and shallow. These are meant for growing plugs, or they're also good for young trees. And what I've got going in there are Paw Paw seedlings. So Paw Paw, does anyone know? Tell me in the comments if you have had a Paw Paw before. Or Kayla, if you have, let me know.
I haven't.
So it's a native plant. That grows these things that look kind of like little mangoes, and they taste amazing. They're like banana, mango, tropical something going on, which is amazing. Love it, love it, love it. And
Native
last
in the
year,
Midden had a papa.
oh, native in the midden, you've had pawpaw. Okay, amazing. Well, what I took was, I took some of those, there were about 13 seeds or so, big, like largish, um, black seeds in there, and I took them, I stratified them in that way that I described. So I put them in a moist paper towel in a sealed container, put that in the fridge for 6 weeks, took them out, and then I stuck them in. Actually, they were in things like this previously, and then they started to grow, and they started to grow these deep roots, and so I transplanted them into here, and hopefully I will end up having some little pawpaw plants. Um, Popping up soon, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. I probably will give them away to people because I already have two pawpaws here. These little guys. I don't know if that's focusing there, but this little red stemmed
Yeah,
thing
I see it.
is one pawpaw, and this one is my other pawpaw. They like to be in pairs because they need to outcross. So you should always have two pawpaws if you're gonna do it. And anyway, so I'll end up having a bunch of extra pawpaw plants probably to give away to people at some point. So that's the kind of thing that we do when we grow plants. Plants are made for sharing. You'll always have more than you need, so you end up just swapping and sharing and giving away. And it's one of those giving kind of hobbies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Be the soil more. Okay.
Okay, try to give you a view of the whole thing. I don't know what this is gonna do if I do this. No, that's not
Well,
good.
you could just turn your phone, but
Sideways, no, that's not good. But I wanted to show you sort of what the whole thing looks like. That's sort of it. Anyway. Please send info on worm bins.
uh, I can send that.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't
Actually,
do
this
vermiculture myself, but I have some friends who do it in their uh, indoors in their condos, and apparently it's great, and it produces obviously compost, which I do use in my containers. So if I did vermicomposting, it would just mean I don't have to go out and buy that stuff. So I definitely do recommend go for it.
Yes, actually, this week is Compost Awareness Week. So Burlington Green
Oh,
has been
great.
posting, yeah, some videos on backyard composting, and we have a vermicomposting video going out tomorrow, and some helpful resources too. So I'll be sure that we share that with Shivana Yoga.
Great. Cool, cool.
Awesome. Okay, well, I don't know if we have any more questions right now.
Last
Uh,
chance, last call for questions. Get them in now. Yeah, if not, then that's great. I thank you very much for having me on, and I had a great time. And thanks for joining me on my balcony here in downtown Toronto. It was a great time. And
Thank-
we'll catch you on the webinar series, Garden for Wildlife, or else you can catch me over at my Instagram channel. That's Botanical Ryan. Or maybe I'll see you at a Burlington Green event somewhere back when, when we're able to do stuff in real life again.
Yes, yes, hopefully. Thank you so much, Ryan. And I think that, you've helped inspire a lot of people. I feel like people often feel like they have to have a big backyard to do a lot of gardening. And this has been very informative and encouraging for a lot of us in smaller spaces. So thank you.
Very welcome. Yeah, it's true. You can get it done even on your balcony. And sometimes the most creative moments come from a challenge. So give it a try. No matter what you've got, you can do something.
Thanks, Ryan. Also, sorry,
Here.
just to end it off, we have one more question. Kelly just
Oh
wants
yeah.
to know a little bit about your books.
Oh yeah, books. Yeah, sure. Why don't I go inside and see if I can find some of my books? 1 second. Here, we'll flip around. Oh. Okay. There's lots of plants inside too, you might notice. Um, hmm. What's the best way? I think maybe they're stashed away somewhere. Can I send a list to you?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Awesome.
Woo. Okay, great. Well, thanks. That was fun.
Yeah, that was lots of fun. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Okay. Cheers. Have a
Thanks,
great day,
everybody.
folks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, that was so fun. Yes, Kelly, we'll make sure that you get that information. So obviously, just want to say thank you to Ryan. Make sure you're following him on Instagram because he will be sure to keep you updated on a lot of news and mostly information regarding native plants. Okay, so just a couple of things before I wrap up. I just want to promote the Burlington Green Youth Network, the BGYN. So we have Monday meetings on Zoom every Monday at 12:30, and this is welcome to youth, whether they are secondary or post-secondary students. And if you'd like more information, you can find the BGYN on Facebook or Instagram. And also, if you aren't receiving our eco news, please make sure you go to our website and sign up. We put out monthly content related to climate action. We also have our Eco Educators newsletter, which has helpful resources and activities, and as well our Eco Solutions, which is geared toward businesses who are looking for ways and advice to kind of shift their business model to a little bit of a greener business model. Also, I just want to thank everybody for their ongoing support of Burlington Green. As you know, we are a charity, so we rely on donations to help fund programs like this. And so if you're able to at this time, we would appreciate a donation so we can fund more of this great work. At this time, the Small Change Fund will be matching your donations. So that's just for the month of May. And I'm going to see if I can drop the link in here. Oh, okay. Sorry. I can't drop the link in, but I'll be sure to post it on the replay so you can see. Thanks so much to everybody for all your questions. This was a lot of fun. And this was my first time doing an Instagram Live, so appreciate everybody's support. And yeah, I think that's all. So have a great day, everybody, and be well.